Been a pretty busy time around my house since the 1st of March. Birthdays, and all that stuff going on. I'm telling you. One day last week, the wife made me a birthday dinner. And I came in, table's all set. I thought, what we got here? So I sat down and I looked over at her and I said, this is nice. And I said, what are we eating tonight? She said, it's Himalayan rabbit. I said, for supper we got Himalayan rabbit? That's got to be a delicacy somewhere. She said, no, I fixed him because I found Himalayan out in the yard. Have you, honey? I got a good woman. So y'all watch out for that Himalayan rabbit. Going to be talking this morning. Simmer down now, simmer down. Going to be talking this morning about Luke 15, somewhere around 12 to 24. Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided the property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. No one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and went to his father. So while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for the son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Not only is Easter a time of forgiveness and renewing, I tend to think of this wayward son story, prodigal son story, as the same. Not only from the father's aspect, but from the son's aspect. We celebrate the son coming back home. First off, prodigal sort of means wasteful, reckless, immoral, squander. And until the Bible was rewritten in the King James Version, you didn't hear much of the prodigal son. It was more wayward, the wayward son. And, you know, this applies to you daughters too. No, don't want to leave you guys out. And your moms too, for forgiving. So, before we get too far, the son comes to his father asking him for his inheritance. We don't really count this as serious a situation as it is. Because back in that day, it was like the son telling his father he wanted his inheritance now. I wish you were dead. Get out of my life. I'm no more part of this family. So this was a big deal, especially back in that time. He wants what's coming to him now. Sound familiar? In this day and time? We want what we want now, right? Anytime, just as long as it's now. Something we need to know here is it was customary too that the oldest son got 2/3 of his father's possessions. Say, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Somebody's paying attention. The younger son got 1/3. What does the father do? He's got decisions to make. We don't know much about the situation. We don't know what happened to make the son so bitter. Did he come up? Was he always bitter toward his dad, or was what was the situation? We don't really know. All we know, he wants his inheritance, and the father gives the younger son his 1/3, which was very unheard of for the day. But the father went along with the son's plan. And after receiving the inheritance, what happens? He don't leave right off, right? The book says after a while he gathers his stuff up, right? So I don't know why he didn't leave right away. Maybe it took a while for him to gather his stuff up that his father had given him. But anyway, the father gives him the 1/3. And after receiving the inheritance, the son gathers all he has and travels to a foreign land. Does this sound familiar? Why does he go to a foreign land? He can save money living where he's in the country he's in. Why does he go to a foreign land? Did he hate his father and his heritage, his family, what he was doing so much that he just ran away? Was it truly that bad? Page 1. Does this sound familiar? Do you know kids these days that get out of high school and pick a college where? Just as far away as you can get. Do you know someone like that in your hometown? Instead of going where everybody knows your name. Remember that show? Everybody knows your name. He ran to another country far away from his father where no one knew his name. There in the foreign land, he would squander his wealth on reckless living. Say, oh no. You're getting better. Not only that, verse 14 tells us that a mighty famine, not just a regular famine, but a mighty famine arose in that same country. And if that son would have just put back just a little bit of money ahead and saved back some of that money, he probably would have made it through that famine just fine. But what did he do? He squandered it. It's all gone. It is all gone. Verse 15 says, he joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields to feed the swine. He became an indentured servant. Now, what's wrong with this picture? He went from the son of a wealthy landowner to what? An indentured servant. Say, oh boy. Yeah, there you go. Here we have a Jewish boy feeding pigs. He hired himself out to a person of that country, and he's now having the illustrious job of feeding pigs. Anybody see a problem with that? A Jewish boy feeding pigs? The only problem is that the Jewish people believed that pigs were very unclean. So here he is, about as low as you can go. This would be the ultimate insult. But something else happens. Verse 16 says, he longed to eat the pods that he was feeding the pigs. And I thought, well, if he's longing to eat these pods, why is he not eating them? So I did a little digging. So here we go. Yeah, all right. The pods that he was feeding the pigs probably came from a tree called Ceralonia sequila. Yeah, it was bad enough the first time. Also known as the carob tree. From the pics on the website I found, the pod looks like a long green bean. What I call around here, green bean tree. I don't know what the name of it is. But these pods were fine for the pigs to eat, but they were not meant for people. They'd make you really, really, really sick. And then not only is he feeding the pigs and he's hungry, but then the latter part of that verse says, no one gave him anything. No one gave him anything. No one gave him anything. Where was his friends that he partied with for, we don't know how long they partied, but we know he had some fair weather friends, right? Feels good out here. I don't think it is. No one gave him anything. Say it's getting bad. What happens next? The son is feeding the pigs one day and he comes to himself. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever come to yourself? I have. Why am I doing what I'm doing? How did I get where I am at? At this point, he realizes, wait a minute. My father has servants with enough to eat and more. I got a plan. I got a 3-step plan. Here we go. All right. Say, always have a plan. There you go. Verse 18 and 19 tells us his 3-step plan. 3-step plan. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and you, and am no more worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired servants. Now, he didn't go back to be a son again. That wasn't in his mind. He didn't go back to be a son. What did he go back to do? To be a servant. And then verse 20, the son finally wakes up. Verse 20, and he arose out of the muck. Can you imagine? And came to his father. But while he was yet a great distance away, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Now, we don't know how long he had to travel from this foreign land back home. Could have been days. Could have been weeks. Could have been hours. We don't know. I wonder what was going through the son's mind on the way back home. What if Dad says no? What's Dad going to say at all? Do you think the son was surprised at the father's reaction? What does the fact that the father saw him from a great distance tell us? Wouldn't be happening to wait for him, would he? Was he looking for him? Was he expecting him? Is that any difference from our Heavenly Father? Is he expecting you? Is he waiting for you? How long are you going to wait? How long are you going to wait to come back home? says that the father saw him a great distance away. Say his dad must have had good eyesight. Maybe this tells me that the father kept watch on his son's return. How long, we don't know. One very interesting point is that the father ran to his son. The father ran to his son. In that day, the older the man got, the more dignified he became, the slower he walked. Not because he couldn't run, but because he was a wealthy landowner. And by doing this, he showed dignity, respect. When he saw his son returning, he lifted his robe and ran to his son. Do you wait for someone? Son, a daughter, friend? Do you run to them? Do they run to you? One of my best memories is waiting, watching for Dad to come home when we lived over on the road before we were there in the house now. And I got to where Mom, she would have that supper on the table, and I knew it was time. He's about ready to get there. And I got so good I could tell them old headlights from that old truck coming around the curve. With my own family, there was a time that I took a Kodak moment. Putting in a cough drop. I'd come home and the dogs would come running to me. Daniel and Rachel, they would come running to me. And then the wife would head the other way and say, they're yours for the rest of the night. So it's game time. And the son said to the father, I have sinned against heaven and you, and am no more worthy to be called your son. Here the father takes over. He calls for the servants. Verse 22, but the father says to the servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. Wait a minute, the son didn't even get to plan to step 3 of his plan. He just got 2 of them out. So what does this mean? The robe, the ring, and the sandals. Sound like a C.S. Lewis story, don't it? The robe in that day was for honored guests. The ring indicated authority. The sandals were for family. Servants did not wear sandals. Now it all ties together. Say, praise God. Praise God. By doing all these things, he's letting his son know that he is forgiven. And is once again part of the family. He's not going to be a servant. He's going to be accepted back into the family. Are we any different? When we fall away from church, when we fall away from God, we fall away from the family. Are we any different? We can come back into the family and are accepted, right? How long has God been watching for your return? Today's the day. Jesus died on that old cross for us. Whether we wanted him to or not, he paid the price. He defeated death, hell, and the grave. He stood in our place. What better time to become his again? He knows our hearts. Won't you give him yours today?